people sitting here are activists to make that happen. And as Howard said, now there has been improvements in the Somali community, but we still have a long way to go. So I would like to pivot to Fadumo or Fatima? Fadumo. I already introduced Fadumo and her clothing line for wheelchair people. So I'm just going to invite her to talk to us a little bit about the work that she's been doing. Welcome.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Fatima Farah. I'm the founder of Fadumo Clothing, and I also work with a charity called Let's Make Noise. Well, I wasn't born disabled. I became disabled 14 years ago due to meningitis. And they say if life gives you lemon, you make lemonade. So because I could not have anything to wear, I decided, rather my mother, may God bless her soul, encouraged me to make clothes for myself. Because I want to look flamboyant, I want to look amazing, I want a lot of colors in my life because I'm a Somali woman. So I had to go to the drawing board and I started drawing, and I had a competition with young designers, and I became the first person in the world to do adaptive wear and to take 6 wheelchair models to London Fashion Week. Well, the other community was cheering on me. My own community was saying, "What's all I was asked, what do you mean by wheelchair clothing? But I said, I said, I am not begging the Somali community. I am asking the other community to buy my clothes because my community is called the disabled community. I don't see myself as a Somali woman. I don't see myself as Fadumo, but I see myself gone to another community. I belong to another community. I belong to the disabled community. When I was walking, I really wanted every child in Africa to go to school. But today, I want a disabled child to go to a school. I want to help a mother with disabled children. Because as a black woman, not only do I have a lot of hurdles in this country, but I know my community back home have got a lot of problems. For starters, they're going to be called a lot of names. They don't have the facilities that I have, even though I have to advocate for myself here. But I'm in a place where if I advocate, I can get. And nobody's going to call me Falmujis. But back home, Allah just, look at the disabled person. I went to a wedding, the first time I ever went to a wedding. Apparently, I'm told I'm the first Somali disabled woman to go to a wedding. And I go to a wedding and everybody says, Allah miskin tanaf bele, Allah firi. And instead of people enjoying the wedding, I became the wedding. I was like, people who knew me, people who came for help when I was walking, people who came to my office were saying, Allah, wali naf bele, wali makosan. So that's what I'm we're in a life where I was featured in Vogue and Cosmopolitan. In the wider community, I'm told I'm very successful. But in the Somali community, everybody will tell me, designing clothes is like a taboo because I'm a disabled woman. It's very unfortunate. I work with an organization called Let's Make Noise, and we work with young children with disabilities and adults with disabilities. When you start working with children with disabilities or with family who've got children with disability, you truly understand what kind of community we come from. And I'm sure Dr. Hashim here will support me on that. We have a community that fathers have run away from. I'm sorry, mostly when a family is blessed with a disabled child, the marriage breaks. I don't know why, but the mother is left alone. We take these children, for example, to Chessington, and you only see mothers with children. You see a mother with 2 disabled boys who are adults. They need a father. They need somebody, a mentor. This poor woman has struggled with these children from when they were babies. And when I ask, how are Bohol? They say he left. And it's not one woman, you will see like 20 women, and their husbands have left them. We as a Somali community, or as a Black community, we really need to think, and we really need to educate ourselves. The education has to start from our homes. Somali Islam, we're Muslims. And this child that you're bringing into this world that God blessed you with, one day you're going to be asked by the Almighty, why did you desert this child? We need to educate ourselves. We need to embrace the disability that God has given us. This is qadr. I'm not going to cry and say, oh, I'm not going to get depressed. I will say, Alhamdulillah, Allah gave me that life before. I enjoyed. I was a beautiful woman. I rocked that life. I'm still a beautiful woman. Alhamdulillah, shukla. And I'm rolling this life with my wisdom. Thank you. People call my husband a hero. And I ask people, why do you call my husband a hero? Oh, because I know Jesus will bless you. No, he's not with me because he's not with me because of bitterness. He is with me because he doesn't see the wheelchair, he sees the woman on the wheelchair. When we stop seeing the wheelchair and we see the person, then we go very far. So let's start educating ourselves. Let's not look at the wheelchair, let's not look at the crutches, let's not look at the child with autism and we say, by the way, I ask people, you said this child is sick. This child has a condition. The child is not sick. But you who is saying this child is sick, has cholesterol, diabetes. Who is sick? In my opinion, you that saying this child is sick, boy, you're on so many tablets, you're the sick person. So anyway, I think I've taken so much away.
I'm so pleased to be hosting this panel, but I'm also so ashamed of my community, and I think we just need to start to do better, to actually try to do better as a community, to take advantage and include into our community people who have so much potential, who are so successful, who are so hardworking. And just listening to Father Mola, I want to crawl under the table and hide, because it's horrific confronting our own prejudice and how we are treating members of our own community. I want to bring in Hashim, because this is his daily work, confronting our community and all their prejudices and biases. So Hashim, welcome.
Thank you. Last I changed that title. I do now. I don't care what other person thinks or do not think. I can change their mindset. I don't want to invest my energy on them. They don't deserve my energy. But who does deserve my energy are fellow parents who've been beaten, who've been bullied, who've been called names, who think that they are all that and now are hiding behind the closed doors. Those are my people now. Those are the people who I tried, because after 25 years saying the same thing and no results, so I confronted with sheikhs, I debated with them, I tried to put the torch inside the mosques and talk about this thing, because doing under the carpet, unfortunately, as Fatima rightly said, it is under carpet, and I don't want to waste my time trying to undo that, because it's not worth. I don't have all that life ahead of me. 25 years is enough now. What I do now is to pick up the phone in the middle of the night, a distressed parents another side. All I can say to them, I'm not a doctor by profession, but I worked for NHS a long time, and my job is community work. What they do is to train you into things, and then you have to make that miracle and talk about the thing that they tell you 48 hours before in front of people, and talk about that, those things. And Allah blessed me with the communication skills. I cannot write if you tell me to write, but I can talk until tomorrow. That's my skill as well. What I do now is to make sure that that parent is not alone. That parent can call me anytime they want. That parent is not a circus that everyone wants to watch. The other thing that now is become a bit difficult is to people to talk about and find a pity or mercy. You can't change what is on you, but what actions are you taking? I ask that. Why you have to bring somebody's a son's picture and talk about their misery? What is it that you're doing? That's what we're doing in Somalia. They're filming children with chains, who otherwise, if they had good schools, could have become educated and do lot. But because of the society, they end up in those situations. But what we do, we film them and then say, hey, this is what's happening. It's not, it's cool. So instead of doing also that part of filming things, we do action. It's my wife who should have been here. I take the credit. It's not due on me, as Fatima said, quite rightly. She's the one who did everything, and now she's doing a good work in Hargeisa. And what we did is we didn't go around and say, hey, can you fund this? Put some money here. We put what we want in our pocket to make sure that back home people have something, and not only training the young people who are now all the graduates in the university and no jobs into that provision. Almost now 15 people are working there and getting their livelihood from there and getting skills. The other thing we do is to make sure that I show the child, the parent with a small child, what they can be if the parent, I always put the burden on the parent because they don't have a network. I'm sorry to say that, but I have to say them blindly to them, and they listen because I walked that road. That small child can become 25 years of age like my son. My son become now a bit of celebrity. When I show around, they think, oh, he's showing off. Yes, I show off, but not to you. I don't care your pity. Don't say, oh, he can talk, he can do, he can. if you put walk on your child, that's what I preach now to other parents. If you walk, whatever it is that it is you have now, forget about what the world will say to you. Please make sure you invest, even if you are in the West, because what we find out now, and I'm sorry if local authorities and NHS are here, they babysit our children at institutions, and that's unfair. So if you are not active parent in talking to them, in trying to make sure that you have a plan and make sure that you do the work, that time will go fast. I talk too much, stop me. And I thank, by the way, Ayan, where she's hiding. Yes, now the ladies are majority, but she made us a politically correct add one man to the panel of women. Thank you. But I'm privileged, as the Italian says, beato tra le donne. I'm not even attempting to translate that. He who is with ladies is blessed. So I'm blessed tonight. I'm very blessed.
Thank you, Hashim. We'll probably come back to you. I do want to say it is incredibly sad that both Fatima and Fatima and Hashim have completely given up in trying to dissuade their communities from our delusions, I guess. But I think two very important things: the fact that when we do try to engage, we treat our disabled members like as if they're in a circus, whether we're trying to, even when we are trying to do good. So just even the approach that we have shows how much we're lacking in understanding and asking them, how do you want me to engage with you? I want to bring in Julia because her PhD was working with women in Western Uganda, and here she's an advocate and a researcher at Inclusion London to kind of broaden our shame out to the rest of the communities, both in Africa and here. Julia, welcome.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Yeah. Thank you so much for inviting me. I really appreciate it. So the first thing I want to say is that everything that you've said is not just about the Somali community. I recognise these stories from many other communities as well, across London and also in Uganda, including the British community in London. I'm not saying that there aren't any specific problems that are related to the Somali community in particular, but a lot of the kind of the stigma, the misunderstanding, and the breakdown of families, actually this happens in other communities as well. And one of the things that's a kind of a constant feature of this problem is lack of resources. And so, in the UK, even though in many ways we have a lot more resources than in other places in the world, we have had years of the government cutting funding for services for disabled people. We used to have better services than we do now. And as a result of that, it means that we have situations like you have just been talking about, where disabled children and young people in kind of institutions run by the state in the UK are just being babysat, and no one's really trying to teach them, no one's trying to help them to develop into what they can be. So that was just what I wanted to start with, because I know that this is heavy, what people have been talking about. And just to kind of, not to take away from that, that's still very much the message, but just to say that it does happen in other communities as well. It isn't just the Somali community. So I work for an organisation called Inclusion London, which is a disabled people's organisation. And what that means is that it is run and led by disabled people ourselves. So the kind of criteria, how you have to qualify to be a disabled people's organisation, you have to have a board of trustees, because we're set up as a charity, and at least 50% of that board, at least 75% of that board must be disabled people themselves. And the staff members, at least 50% of the staff members must be disabled people also. In the organisation that I work in, it's pretty much 100% on the board and 100% of staff are disabled people. And the reason that I wanted to talk about this to you is that we start to see something very different happening when disabled people are in charge. When disabled people are getting to make the decisions about what the organisation is doing. And personally, this job I started about 2 years ago. I have been disabled since I was in my early 20s. Like Faduma, I was not born disabled, but I became disabled when I was in my early 20s. So I've had many jobs in other organisations, and really I can't tell you how different it is working for an organisation where everybody is disabled, because you end up in a situation where you're just not having to explain yourself all the time because everybody already gets it. Everybody already understands. So the other thing that I wanted to say is that within so there are organisations like ours across London and across the UK as well, other disabled people's organisations, and all around the world. But we haven't got everything right either. And one of the things, particularly in the UK, that can be a problem with the disabled people's movement, which is kind of how we explain ourselves, is that it isn't always inclusive of all communities, and it isn't always inclusive particularly of people of colour and people who come from communities that are in a cultural minority in the city or place that they live. And that is definitely still the case in London with the disabled people's movement. You can see Inclusion London were invited to come here today, and the person that they sent was me. I'm a white woman, and I'm here speaking to a Somali community. We do have members of staff who are not white, who are from various other communities, but we do have a problem where the majority of people within our organisations are still white. And so there's work to be done around inclusion from the point of view of communities, but there's also work to be done around inclusion for disabled people's organisations as well, in terms of other dimensions of inclusion. And that's something that, as Inclusion London, we're trying to actively work on. And I guess just to say to those of you who are here today who identify as disabled people, I'd love to talk to you. Some of you will already be working in disabled people's organisations and may already know about Inclusion London. But if you don't, I'd love to talk to you more about the work that we do and how you want to get engaged. I'm going to stop there, but I'd be really interested to kind of answer questions later if anybody wants to know more about the work, or alternatively about the work that I did in Uganda, which was research with disabled people's organisations in Uganda.
Thank you for that. I am going to leave a lot of time for Q&A in a little while, but I want to bring Hawa in, and then probably Hashim, just to give us a bit more details about some of the work that's happening in Somaliland. He alluded to some work being done by his wife, and I know Hawa in her activism for deaf schools in Somaliland, in Borame, in Hargeisa, and in Burao, by her and her classmates. Burao, Borame, and Hargeisa, or just the various cities in Somaliland. So we'll get a little update on that, and then I was thinking as Julia was speaking that I think this is the third year that we've done an event as part of Somali Week Festival where we've talked about kind of access to disability or our giving access to our community. Actually, probably more than that. 5 years? 5 years. And I was just thinking, I think I might live long enough to see an event that is exclusively organized by members of the community for their own community as part of Somali Week, and that is kind of the aspiration of where we would want to get to as a community and as an organization. Just kind of reflective as Julia was talking about, an able-bodied person like me having to prepare events and think of, what should this community do when there are clearly organizations and people who are doing this for this community. Hawa, if you want to go first, and then Hashim. Just an update on if she wants to tell us about some of her activism here and in Somaliland, and Hashim, if you want to give us details about what's happening in Hargeisa.
Thank you very much for that. So more in relation to my activism, it's very specifically about Somaliland. It's in development, and it's carrying on doing much more activism about the approval of education of the deaf community. So I'm carrying on from what Anna has put in place already, and carrying on, I'm caretaking it and supporting what has happened back home. And because that place is part of my heart. So every year I go back to have an annual checkup to see what's going on. As we always are adding more teachers and having more, and we've also developed a deaf club so people could come and socialize together. And we also opened up a mainstream school so that we have the hearing and deaf children working in conjunction with each other. And then later, one of the things we're talking about, having a deaf center in the main city. And also going to be doing training with the teaching and with the teachers and carrying on creating make a noise. Let's make a noise. So we're carrying on with making a noise in our campaign so that people could know that we are going forward. We're also training 2 interpreters currently, and 2 additional interpreters, and having them go out to various areas. So, as we said, we mentioned we have the deaf school, but we don't have enough deaf students, because unfortunately we've had a few people pass away, and there has been a decline in that. So we have invested in mainstream schools.
Thank you. I want to say, when I met Hawa in Hargeisa and she gave me a copy of the book, I met with her 3 other people. One of them was a young, able kid, her niece, I think, who her and her sister taught the sign language to, and who was now interpreting or translating between me and Hawa and her mom. And she was like 9 or 10 years old, mashallah. Hashim.
Thank you very much. I get emotional when I talk about these things. Forgive me if I said something that I might have upset some people when I was speaking earlier, but I'm known to speak freely, and it is one thing that I keep saying. We in the disabled community, whether it's autism or anything, we are there. Please, if you're not helping, you have every right to refuse your assistance to us, but at least don't hinder. That's the message I give everyone. Don't hinder, just keep quiet. Keep quiet, don't worry. Find any other things to occupy your time with, other than talking badly about us. Really, that's one message. Now, one line I developed in talking to the people. What we do, it's a drop in the ocean, and I'm sad to say that. That's the drop we could afford as a family. We built, with Allah's help and guidance, and it's a circumstance that it was not our making, because her mom got sick and she had to take care of her mom in Hargeisa. And that's when she came up with the idea of saying, look, yes, I have all the help here, but what I can do in my spare time is to open a center. We call it a center, we cannot call it a school yet because of legal ramification on that word. What we do is just to make sure that the children are not confined in four walls. We encourage parents to be proud and bring them out. See, to make sure that they communicate. I hate the word non-verbal. My son, they used to say non-verbal, but now he talks. It is not. The communication is not word, it's not verbal, it's not only language. So there are a lot of ways that they can communicate. Picture exchange, sign language. My son, when he's very difficult, he will use sign language to tell you what he wants, which is coming back to the powerfulness of the communication. What we're trying to do is to make that children to integrate to the society with minimum of understanding around their surroundings, minimum to understanding where they're going, and instill in the community that proudness of being there. But we are miles away, but we can't wait for perfect storm to do things. We do what we can. What we do also is to make sure that the young people, we have tons of them, 70% of our young people out there are less than 23 of age. What they can do. So teaching them in that compassion, trying to make them understand that they can have this feel. It is more important. Last but not least, here in UK, we advocate as much as we can. You see me sitting into many school when their tribunals, the parents are being refused to get. And what I find out is that in any community, it's not only Somali community, the pecking order, we are the last, because we cannot say and articulate what we think. And I use my skills of 25 years to go into there and also challenge politicians when they are not doing what they're supposed to do. And I'm sad to say that the current government is trying to get rid of ECHP. It's called Educational Healthcare Plan, which was a legal document, which is legal document abiding the local authorities to give this young person, this child, an education according to their ability. And that they are trying to scrap now. And it has become a society where the resources are so scarce and we're losing out. As other previous people were saying, the development was cut. Now they're cutting in here, the vulnerable people's things that they are their lifeline, and that's a sad society to be in. And I'm also active in that role, and I take any politician you bring in, whoever they are, and debate with this subject. I'm very much passionate. But I seek your pardon if I upset you with my very colorful language. Thank you.
Thank you. Please never apologize. I think it should be as colorful and as forceful as possible, and we have to get used to not apologizing for it. Because as you said, you guys have been speaking for 20, 30, maybe even 40 years. So it maybe being colorful is where we should be at now. Thank you for that. Faduma, I think we never mentioned where we can find your clothes.
I sell my clothes online at faduma.com, fadumaclothing.com.
Please check it out and visit her site. I also wanted to provide space for, I think there's few attendees from the deaf community and from other disabled participants that are here to have a chance to directly speak with Julia and other members on this panel, either if they want questions or directions or so on. So please put your hands up, and then if we can figure out the translations, that would be great. And I think we have Sahara in the audience. She's an educator, and I'd like to invite her for a comment to contribute to this panel. I'll get someone to run over the speaker.
Yes. Okay. My name is Sandra. I'm the Assistant Technology Teacher Facilitator. I'm also a Hoya, I'm also a England. aiding the Hoyas with their children who are autistic. No English stop. Your child needs to communicate. We have technology to aid them. We did the ESE plan. They can implement by buying technology for their home. It's not just for school. When I spoke to the Somali girl, she said, I cannot read, I cannot write. I said, excuse me, what have you just done? But then the Somali said, that's still reading and writing. Do not